Well, good evening from the News Radio 1120 and 93.7 FM, KPNW Studios. I'm Bill Lundun. I co-host the Wake Up Call 6 a.m. to 9 on KPNW, streaming worldwide at kpnw.com. And there's this young guy, we call him the Grasshopper, Gary Snyder, who's also in the studio during this particular time of the day. By the way, news is brought to you by Dr. Michael Bratland, where when you have an emergency, well, you just pick up your cell phone and call him. He's the only dentist I know that actually gives you his private cell number. And that's pretty impressive. And it makes it great because in the middle of the night, you can text him and just like, so, what are you wearing? No, you don't want to do that. All right, here's a look at some of the stories we're following. So, guess what? Oh, it's a debate. President Joe Biden and former President Trump are set to take the debate stage for the first presidential debate of 2024. It'll be hosted by CNN in Atlanta, and it marks the first time that the two have seen each other on a stage since 2020. Likely, you're going to hear a number of things brought up in the debate, like, for instance, Trump's conviction and Hunter Biden's conviction, and both convictions, and they're probably going to be at least somewhat of a highlight for the debate. It's going to be moderated by CNN's Jake Tapper and Dana Bash and features an entirely new set of rules to prevent what they're calling familiar animosity between Trump and Biden. So we'll get into that. It's going to be a 90-minute debate, starts at 6 p.m., and it will include 2 commercial breaks because, by God, we have to have commercials for the sake of democracy. CNN has confirmed that both the campaigns of Biden and Trump have agreed to rules that they've never previously used in a presidential debate. There will be no audience. There will be no help from aides, no notes, and no interrupting. Now, I'm assuming the interrupting is Trump interrupting Biden or Biden interrupting Trump, but I'm sure that, of course, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash will be more than happy to interrupt the candidates and tell them what the facts are. To enforce, by the way, the no interruptions rule, the microphone of one candidate is going to be muted while the other is speaking. Why can't we also mute the mics of the moderators when the candidates are speaking? Anyway, the moderators say they will use all of the tools at their disposal to enforce timing and ensure a civilized discussion. I wonder if that includes things like ball-peen hammers and rubber band guns. So we were talking about this on our morning show, The Wake Up Call, and what would be appropriate drinking games for the debate. And one of our 15 listeners emailed Michael and suggested this as your drinking game, where you chug a beer or take a shot when these things happen. Every time Trump sniffs loudly, take a drink. Each time Trump does the accordion hands thing, take a drink. Each time Biden leans forward and does his whisper thing, take a drink. And finally, he says, each time Biden wipes spittle from the corner of his mouth, take a drink. All right, so this is probably the scariest fire in Oregon so far this year. A wind-driven wildfire ignited Tuesday in the central Oregon area, actually Lapine, and it went from simply 250 acres in about an hour-long period from the time that it started to the time that finally forces managed to get there. 250 acres. Then, by Wednesday, it had blown up to 2,015 acres. Now, it's burning not only in grass and sage, but also lodgepole pine. And it caused the evacuation of a number of homes, actually a lot of them. It's called the Darlene Fire. It's burning in Deschutes County. It's about 30% contained. It started at 2 p.m. on Tuesday afternoon, and it was fanned by winds that were gusting 20, 25 miles an hour. went right through a pine forest and right towards homes in Lapine. Lapine, by the way, in case you didn't know it, smaller town in Central Oregon, about 2,500 people. It's in the eastern Cascade foothills. And the sheriff's office, the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office, sent evacuation alerts to 1,100 homes and businesses. Now, at this point, it looks like that no homes and businesses have been destroyed. A whole bunch of campgrounds in the area and hiking trails officially closed down. The cause of the fire is under investigation. Now, I'm going to say right up front here, this is both rumor and postulation because it has not been confirmed. However, the area, the epicenter of where that fire started is well known to Lapine residents as having been taken over by numerous homeless camps. And social media in the area was buzzing with accusations. Officials, when asked, simply said they won't say, and only that they're investigating. Governor Tina Kotek also invoked the Conflagration Act, determining the fire posed a threat to life and property and exceeded the resources of local fire agencies. And so that allows the fire marshal to essentially mobilize firefighters and equipment from throughout the state of Oregon and to get crews to fight the fire. We had crews that from Marion County and also Lynn County that literally Tuesday afternoon left for Lapine and were there by early evening, mostly to deal with structural protection. So the city of Portland is going to start enforcement of its new ban on homeless camps on July 1st. And already homeless supporters, some would say homeless enablers, are losing their minds. The ordinance allows the city, Portland, to fine or jail homeless people if there's shelter beds available and they refuse to take them. Now, the Portland City Council adopted the revised camping ordinance in early May, and Portland and Multnomah County more broadly don't have enough shelter beds for every single person living on the streets. But with the new order, according to Mayor Ted Wheeler, he says they've found a way to legally enforce a camping ban, even only if it's in specific circumstances, namely open beds. What they're going to do is they will send city workers to problematic campsites first and then inform people there are shelter beds available. Something that Portland can do because they actually have a real-time tracking app that tells them where and what beds are actually open, at least in the city of Portland. So if the campers, the homeless, say, no, I don't want to go to the shelter, well, then what's going to happen is they will receive a fine of $100 or up to 7 days in jail, or both. And law enforcement is also supposed to be tracking who gets busted and when. Now, the camping is going to be banned round the clock, or it also will be banned around the clock if and whenever it blocks sidewalks, access to private property, no fire or gas heaters are allowed, personal belongings have to be within 2 feet of a tent, and the ordinance bans activities that cause environmental damage, like pouring raw sewage into a waterway, or let's say tossing your needles there, or garbage, or I think you get the idea. Now, we told you, I think it was last week, about this kind of ongoing war between the city of Portland and also the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners. In this case, in the last case, it was Ted Wheeler. He was angry at the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners because the city of Portland is spending millions of dollars cleaning up tents and tarps and stuff left behind by the homeless. And Multnomah County is spending millions of dollars giving the homeless new tents and new tarps and new stuff. Well, earlier this month, a city commissioner, they have a city council in Portland, but they're called county or city council commissioners as opposed to councilors. Anyway, he's a city commissioner, and he's also a mayoral candidate, and that's Rene Gonzalez. He wrote a nastygram to Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson, protesting the county's plan in their new budget to buy tents, tarps, and syringes and other drug gear for the homeless. According to Gonzalez, his letter worked. He said, yesterday, Chair Vega Peterson sent me a commitment the county will cease purchasing tents and tarps while we work out a long-term agreement on harm reduction. He said, very appreciative of this collaborative step, up and away, and making the city a cleaner place. Now, for her part, Vega Peterson confirmed in a written agreement that a statement that, yes, they had agreed and that they need, at least at this time, to reduce the need to hand out tents and tarps. So, speaking of homelessness, Oregonians are still awaiting on a decision from the U.S. Supreme Court. And with only about, what are we at now, 6 days? 6 days till the end of this Supreme Court session, there is one case being watched very closely in Oregon that is yet to be handed down, and that is the City of Grants Pass versus Johnson. And it pits the City of Grants Pass against service providers and enablers of the homeless who claim that Grants Pass and its anti-camping law violates the U.S. Constitution's 8th Amendment prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment. Now, during oral arguments in April, a conservative majority of the court seemed, based on questions, that they were ready to side with Grants Pass. And the issue is pretty much an issue of importance throughout Oregon because everybody's trying to come up with a solution to homelessness. And every time they turn around, a court or a group that advocates for the homeless is taking them to court in an act of lawfare. What Grants Pass is and isn't allowed to do, of course, is going to have a ripple effect all through Oregon, not only in a small southern Oregon town, but it's going to have an effect on just about every town that is dealing in one form or another with homelessness. Oh, and we're number 8. We're number 8. That's right. Oregon is in the top 10 again. We rank 8th in the nation on the Merrick Composite Cost of Living Index. The index includes all sorts of things: consumer prices, taxes, fuel, housing, utility costs. In essence, it means that, well, being number 8, it's cheaper to live in 43 other states than Oregon. The worst, by the way, are Hawaii, California, Alaska, and Massachusetts. And isn't it interesting that Oregon is right up there with Hawaii and Alaska that are known to have an insane cost of living because it's so expensive to get goods and items to those states? Because, you know, in Hawaii's case, you've got to traverse an ocean, and in Alaska's case, an ocean, and you got to traverse a hell of a lot of Alaska. So as the 4th of July approaches, the Oregon Marine Board, in conjunction with Oregon County Sheriffs and the Oregon State Police, are participating in Operation Dry Water, which means that they're going to be out trying to bust drugged and drunk boaters. Believe it or not, if you're convicted of what they call a buoy, boating under the influence of intoxicant, call it a buoy. They're so funny. A conviction can actually get you tossed in jail and almost a $7,000 fine. And they'll take away your boating privileges. No more privileges for you, drunk boater. All right. Well, that's a look at the stories we're following tonight. That just goes to show you, yes, Oregon truly is 98,352 square miles surrounded by, well, at least on one side, by reality. All right, Rick, it's time for you to get real. And the news was brought to you by Dr. Michael Bratland. Send him an email if you want to complain.